Hello A2, so this is your mark scheme for your experimental design and ethics question. So hopefully you have answered all the questions. The most important thing you must do, and your homework will be given back to you and you'll be asked to complete it and bring it in again, is you must mark the answers, giving yourself a score, and then say why if you didn't get full marks. So you must say why you didn't get full marks if you didn't give yourself full marks. What experimental design was used in this study? Independent groups. Hopefully you got all that, because obviously you all got that. Obviously it was either in cognitive interview or standard interview. They were the two groups. They were either in one or they were in the other. Explain one limitation of the design that was used in this experiment. So you must give a point and you must explain. 1 mark for point, 1 mark for explain, no marks if you didn't contextualise. So it's AO2 and AO3 must apply, so you must contextualise, and AO3 you must evaluate. A weakness is that it is a control for individual differences. One of the participants, so that would get you a mark because it's the point. One of the participants might have just had a better memory, so record more of the robbery in detail, contextualise. This is a weakness because it could be a participant variable causing change in recall, reducing our confidence in cause and effect, and therefore internal validity. So point, have you made your point? Have you said why? So if you had said what a weakness is, have you said why it's a weakness, and have you contextualised? Please underline the words related to the stimulus that you've used. If you've done all 3 of those things, 2 marks. If you haven't done contextualised, no marks. If you contextualised but you've only made a point, 1 mark. Next line, identify and explain the experimental design used. Again, identify and explain. 1 mark for saying independent groups and 1 mark for explaining, including contextualisation. So if you don't mention male or female, then you don't get any points. Note, all participants only take part in 1 condition, either the male or the female condition. So all take part in 1 condition would get you the mark, as long as you've then contextualised to either the male or the female condition. Explain how the psychologist could obtain a random sample of 15 men and a random sample of 15 women for this study. So 3 marks for a clear explanation, as long as it is contextualised for this study. Put all names, numbers of men from the factory in a hat or a computer. You could mention any of those, so you could put, say, names or numbers. You must mention it's from the factory, or you must at some point make some kind of reference to the stimulus, otherwise you lose the marks. Draw 15 names out of the for the sample, or get the computer to randomly generate 15 names. And then repeat for women in the factory, so put 15 women, put all of the names in a hat, and then draw out 15 names or 15 numbers. So make a list of the target population, so everybody from the factory that is male. Draw out 15 names, and that gets you 2 marks. And then saying that you would make a list of all of the women in the factory, that's your second sampling frame, and draw out 15 women, then that you get all the points for that, as long as you've mentioned something about the factory or something about the target population in some way. Please underline where you've done that. No marks if you haven't contextualised. If you can't underline anything, if you've not made any reference to any of the stimulus, you cannot get any marks. Write a debrief the psychologist could read out to the participants. It must include you must include the purpose or the aim of the study and some ethical issues that we'll talk about. If you don't do that, you can't get the marks. Okay, and then optional other things, background information, tell me a bit more about the names, ask if there's any questions, and thank you for participating. Also ask if they are interested in the results. So 4 marks if you've mentioned both the aim, the purpose and the aim of the study, and an ethical point, and 1 ethical issue, 1 optional issue. Both essential points are addressed, so you've mentioned the aim, but you haven't, and an ethical issue, but you haven't done any more. 2 marks if any 2 points are addressed, so 1 from the optional and 1 from the essential, and then 1 mark if there's at least 1 relevant point. To get above 2 marks, you must have mentioned both of the essential points, the aim, and you must have mentioned something ethical. Okay. So you could say something like, thank you for taking part in the study. The aim of the study was to investigate the difference in expectations that men and women have in their numerical ability. If you're unhappy, you're allowed to withdraw your data at any time. Just contact the number on the sheet below and quoting your participant number. If you feel distressed, there are details of counselling which can be accessed on the number in the conform consent form. Your data will be stored securely and safely, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch. So you've said thank you for taking part, which is one of the optional ones. You've told me what the aim was, which is one of the essential ones. You've mentioned 3 things there for ethical issues, so that's more than enough. If you just mention one of those, you could get a mark for that. You've also offered any questions to get in touch on the contact details provided. Brilliant. If you can mark that, tell me any reasons why you didn't get full marks, and then give yourself a total percentage at the end.